Everybody.
Oh, hey! Didn't see you walk in. Welcome to another episode of Marc and Elmer's PSI, Counseling Investigations. Wow. Well, anyways, as you see, once again, I'm in a suit. I got called this morning to go work at the store almost a half an hour before I was supposed to clock in, so I was in a bit of a rush. I had my whole morning planned out too. I really did. I was gonna feed the dog. I was gonna walk the dog.
You didn't feed the dog?
Huh?
You didn't feed the dog?
I did feed the dog. I did. It was just on time. But I was going through stuff trying to look for PSI material, and then my phone went off, and it was one of my co-players who
Did
said,
you walk the doggy?
I didn't get to walk the dog.
Oh, you're gonna have a big pile at home when you get home.
Well, no, actually my stepdaughter's at home, so she gets to walk the doggy. But anyways, yeah, it's days like this, and some of you PNs might feel like this once in a while. I feel like every once in a while I should be stuck in a glass case with a sign on it that says, break glass in case of emergency. And I hear...
Go ahead, talk louder.
Okay, I'll talk louder.
Excuse me, everybody. Cutting the grass out there, and it's a huge field. It's gonna take forever.
But anyways, I wanted to as well talk a little bit about my Easter. I forgot that we talked about Easter a little bit, but not as much. But I had a fine Easter. I got to spend it with my my mother, my brothers, and their families as well. Anyways, I also wanted to talk about. Okay, well, let's put it this way. I had a private conversation with one of my brothers. Okay, he's I'm going to be turning 60 this year.
Hey!
Yeah, I know. I'm turning 60 this year. Yeah, and my other brother, who's 2 years younger than I am, he's turning 58 this year. And he wanted to confide in me about something that took place a couple weeks before Easter.
Uh-oh.
So, anyways, some background information about my brother. Okay, I won't give his name out, but it's nothing serious. But he's a martial arts expert. Okay, and he's been doing this since he was a little kid. Even more so serious when he got out of college, which he would have been about 21, 22 years old, right? He is one of two Filipino martial artists here in this country. One of two. It's him here, and he's got another buddy in LA, California, who teaches Filipino martial arts. Now, he didn't tell me about this, but until Easter, when we got together, he said he's been taking on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
Ooh.
And just before Easter, he felt he was ready to compete. Here's a kid that's turning 50, he's 57 now, will be turning 58 later in the year. And he said to play it safe, he signed up for the senior citizen division. Okay, so and it took place in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, cool.
And so, anyways, he says, so he arrives there by plane. Okay, he goes over there, gets a ride to the meeting place, and lots of people there. And so he goes up to register at the table to let them know he's arrived. And about half an hour later, while he's warming up, he's approached by a couple of the judges and is informed that he is the only contender, the senior citizens. So he's flown in. They didn't want him to feel like he just flew all the way over there, for nothing. He says they were open to have him do like a free exhibition or something, and they would pay him for that or something. And instead, he opted to compete with the younger boys.
Good for him.
So now you're talking about kids who are like 20, 30 years old.
Wow.
And this is a national competition. National.
This is his first time.
And this is his first time
and doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is
wow.
this is the National Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition.
Wow.
And so, anyways, he says it was sort of a bit anticlimactic, put it that way, he said. So he goes in and decides to compete with the younger division, and he's taking on this 30-year-old guy. And he says, he anticipated he was going to be tough, because these guys don't mess around, right? They don't. I mean, it's probably the most difficult martial art institution to get a black belt, just to get a black belt.
Yeah.
They said that some people spend their whole lives just trying to get just to the first degree of black belt. But anyway, so he takes on the first guy, and he says he actually finished him off in 2 minutes. He thought, okay, all right, well, hooray for me.
Now he practices other forms.
Oh yeah, he practices other forms.
Technically, you can only use the methods of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the competition, right?
I think so. I'm not sure.
If the judges see you doing something else,
yeah.
And if you do an Aikido move or something, that would not be legal, right?
I don't know what the rules were, but I'm just going by what he told me. So he took on the first guy, finished off in 2 minutes. So he's resting up for the next round, and the next guy, he anticipates it's going to be even more tough than the first guy he just finished off, because the next guy, he is trying for his black belt. And this is one of the requirements for him to achieve his black belt. And so the guy is going to want to win this competition to achieve the black belt, right? And so he's warming up, and it's time for the competitors to meet on the mat. So he's on the mat, and he looks across the mat, and there's nobody there. I was like, so where is this guy? And he later found out that
chicken out?
He's not coming out. He's not coming out. So he's talking to the guy's coach. He says, well, where is he? Talk to him. He says, I didn't fly out here just to fight one guy and finish him off in 2 minutes.
He doesn't want to be beat by this old dude.
And so, anyways, to make a long story short, the guy never did come out. He never did come out. And so my brother won by default, and he took first place. He came home with his trophy
from the whole Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
From the whole Brazilian
age range.
Which
was basically all adults.
Yeah, all adults, all the senior citizens, and the younger division.
Wow.
The story's not over.
They contacted
him, and apparently he now
gave him a black belt.
No, he now qualifies to go compete in the World Championship.
Whoa!
Which will take place in Las Vegas.
Wow!
So he says he's not sure he wants to go. He says he's not, because here he feels like he lucked out a little bit because he just trained himself.
Some of the real guys from around the world, Russians and Brazilians are coming.
And these guys come compete, and they bring their whole team along with them. Yeah. So they've been training with sparring partners, trainers, coaches, the whole bit.
And he doesn't have anybody to work with.
And he doesn't have anybody to work with. He doesn't have a team. He doesn't have sparring partners. He doesn't have a trainer. He doesn't have a coach. he doesn't have any of that.
And have some students who just stand here on the mat and let me kick the shit out of you.
So yeah. Now, mind you, this is my brother. I grew up with him. When we were first taking Shotokan karate lessons as kids, he was basically a 70, 80-pound weakling. You could break him with it. He's like, his hands, his arms were like twigs. You could easily go, and he's not like that anymore. He's a very big guy, and he's very, he can look intimidating. He's shaved his head. As a matter of fact, when he went home to the Philippines to visit our cousins, he got shown around, and these kids were looking at him because they knew he was a little different and he looked big. And he asked our cousin, "What are they looking at me for?" He says, "I don't know. I'll go ask." So his cousin went over to the kids and talked to them a little bit. Next thing he knows, these kids are running up to him, screaming, jumping up and down and stuff. He says, "Well, what'd you tell him?" He says, "I told him you were Mike Tyson." So all these kids are wanting his autograph, and so he's signing autographs, Mike Tyson. So, well, he doesn't have any hair. He's big, and he's got arms. So yeah, he looks like Mike Tyson.
Good for him.
So, but anyways,
is he retired from his profession yet, or is he still doing that?
No, he's still doing this. He's still doing his construction engineering, and he's still teaching. Filipino martial arts.
Well, I meant more of the construction stuff, but he's still doing that too.
Oh, he's still doing that too. He hasn't given it up. The one thing about cabotage is not all of us believe in retirement. So now, my brother's background, but I have 3 other brothers. Okay, athletics run in our family, but unfortunately, I did not inherit that gene. So not even close to it. My brothers, they all run track. They do marathons. They do cross country. They play football. They wrestle. They do martial arts. They do tennis. And just when you think they can, they're very athletic, they could probably kick your butt intellectually as well. My one brother, who's a year younger than I am, won our Finley's All-City chess tournament.
Ooh. Is this the fellow that does work for Eli Lilly?
That's the one. That's the one.
He's a biochemist or something like that.
Yeah, he's a chemical engineer at this point. So, anyway, he won it. I think it was his junior year. His junior year, and my other brother, who's the martial artist, didn't place that year. So they both competed. Well, now it's his senior year. A year later, the one brother that won it his junior year loses in the semifinals. But guess what happens? The other brother, who's in the martial artist, wins it all.
Hey,
so that's 2 years in a row that a cabotage won the All-City tournament. Now, the story doesn't end there.
In the meantime, poor Albertson said,
Yeah, I was practicing my skills.
Teasing you.
So I know. But anyways, we have a baby brother. Okay, and he was 12, and at 12 years old, he can beat my brothers in chess, but he didn't qualify for the chess tournament because he was still in junior high, right? And so it was mostly, high school and up. Well, so they found out about our little baby brother, and they found out that he could beat the 2 older brothers, and so here he comes as a freshman, and they totally yanked the plug from the chess tournament.
That's a terrible story.
It is horrible.
Oh.
And I'll tell you what the real kicker is. So, our little baby brother graduates high school and winds up freshman at the University of Cincinnati. And guess what? They reinstate the chess tournament. They wanted to be sure that all of us graduated already and were gone, so they could reinstate the chess tournament.
Oh.
So
Did he play at Cincinnati?
Yeah, well, he played a little bit, but he was still trying to find himself. He didn't even know what to major in yet. So,
what does his brother do? I don't remember.
Which one, our baby brother? Well, right now, he's a real hotshot in computers, and so he He actually graduated from University of Finley, magna cum laude
Mm.
in computers. So he does do that really well. But right now he's not employed. He's taking care of our mom.
He's a brother that's taking care of your mom. That's an important job. I spent the last, especially 4 years of my dad's life, mostly taking care of it.
Now, just to show you how unathletic I am, even my mother is athletic. My mother, if you can believe that. And my brothers are always making fun of me because I wasn't good at any sports. But my mom beats me not only in sports, but she also beats me in chess. And so that's plenty to laugh at home, right?
What about your dad?
Dad plays tennis, he plays golf, and he's good at both. Oh, and he's also believe it or not, he's also a hot shot closet basketball player.
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. Yeah, he's short, okay? Yeah. He's like 5'2", 5'3".
Wow.
He's short.
Yeah.
Now, there's a story behind that. He quit playing basketball when he came to this country. Okay, now, in Finley, the doctors and the lawyers always have it out for each other competitively, okay? And so, they always had a lawyer's team in sports and the doctor's team in sports. So they would play tennis, they would do golf, they would or baseball or soccer. And one year, they decided to do basketball. And so the doctor's basketball team, everybody was over 6 feet tall, and they needed another guy. And nobody wanted to play because they never played basketball. They found out my dad played basketball in his youth. And so they asked my dad if he'd play, and he says, "You guys," at that age, he could barely run anymore. Okay, he could barely run. So he said they really needed him, and so after much encouragement, he finally decided to play basketball with the doctor's team. And so they meet at Finley High School on the basketball court, indoor gym, right? And okay, the basketball game starts, and my brothers and I are on the bleachers along with Mom, and there's people cheering, and watching the lawyers, basically the first 5-10 minutes are trouncing the doctors, okay? So you're getting totally trounced. And every time the doctors get the ball, they just can't seem to get the ball into the hoop. So my dad's trying to keep up with where the ball's going. So he's coming over to one side, and they're already ran across, and so he's turning around. And, well, out of a moment of desperation when the doctors had the ball, they threw the ball to my dad. And so my dad just barely made it past the midpoint of the court, and he heaves the ball, and the ball goes in.
3-pointer, huh?
Yeah.
Cool.
So everybody was in shock. But so you think it was a lucky shot? No, it wasn't. He did it again. And so the doctors decided to make it a point to get Dad in the right position of the court and hand him the ball so he could heave it back into the basket. And needless to say, Dad pretty much won the game for them. So, but anyways, my mother. Okay, my mother has the most interesting story. All right, so all of us at one point were in college, okay, including Ed. Mom was not happy as an empty nester, okay. As a matter of fact, when we dropped Ed off, the story I got was Mom cried all the way home from Cincinnati.
Oh.
So, because now it's just her and Dad, right? Not that Dad was bad company. It's just that there's nobody home now. She didn't have her boys, particularly the piano player, at home to play the piano while she was doing housework. So, but a year or two passes, and Mom is still depressed that all the boys are gone, right? And Dad had finally had enough of it, decided to get my mom involved with people again. So he came home from for his lunch break and didn't even bother having lunch. He decides to tell Mom, "Get your shoes on, we're going out." He says, "Well, what is it about?" He says, "We're going to go to the country club. I signed you up for lessons in golf." And Mom does not like it. She starts throwing a tantrum and starts throwing a fit. She's crying. You know, she doesn't want to. She doesn't know anybody at the country club. Her English is bad. You know, it's not her first language. But Dad insisted. He says he was tired of her being moping around at home, not doing anything, and complaining about this and that. He finally had to have her go out and meet people at the country club. So Dad basically says he actually dragged her to the car, and he had to carry her shoes as well. Right? So they get to the country club. Yeah, they get to the country club, and Mom's still crying. Dad says, "Put on your shoes and dry it up," which she does. And so they walk to the clubhouse, and Dad introduces her to her golf instructor. And supposedly Dad and this guy, you know, they're good friends. You know, basically they're doing him a favor. Dad's still paying for the golf lessons, of course. But anyways, so Mom is taking golf lessons throughout the whole summer. Okay, so you're talking 3 months, 4 months, 3 months, yeah. So Dad's hearing nothing from his buddy, the golf instructor, about how the progress of my mom's golf lessons are. Dad comes home, sees Mom, "How are golf lessons?" And she says they're fine. And that's it. That's all she says, they're fine. So Dad wanted more details. And she says, "We just practice golf and that's it. I'm just hitting the ball and, you know, I make it to the hole every once in a while. Sometimes I miss. I don't know what you want." You know. So Dad finally goes to the golf instructor and asks him, "So how's my wife doing at golf, really?" He says, "Well, she's only got a couple more golf lessons left in this session, Ed," my dad. He says, "And to be quite honest with you, I think she should compete at the fall competition." And this is after 3 months of golf lessons. So she decides, so says, "Okay, let's see what happens." Mom competes. Well, guess what? She won the whole thing. We're talking about women who've been playing for at least a whole decade. My mom takes golf lessons for 3 months for one summer and wins her first golf tournament. Gets her name in the paper, gets her picture in the paper.
Wow.
So she's vindicated. I mean, she did well. Now, you think the story ends there? Doesn't end there. So Mom and Dad celebrate all weekend, you know, with outings and dining in the finest restaurants all weekend, basically. And then it's time to go back to work Monday morning, right? So Dad goes to work. He arrives at the office at 9 a.m. and, you know, he works till near 12 noon when he decides to take his lunch break, right? So he goes home, his lunch break, comes home, goes in through the front door, and is looking for Mom, and Mom's nowhere to be seen. So he says, "Well, where's lunch?" He looks on the front counter. He says, "Preheat the oven at 350 and stick this in there for about 30 minutes, and lunch will be ready." He's never had to do this before. For all the years that they've been married, Mom has always had lunch ready and hot waiting for him. She later finds out in the day that Mom's been having a good time having lunches with the girls from the golf club. So a happy story there. So it ends well.
Does she keep playing? She's still playing?
She's not playing anymore.
No.
But she wound up winning endless competitions there in Finley. She won't go outside Finley. Just doesn't feel like it. But in Finley, yeah, she'll compete.
She knows her competition.
Yeah. So and so she's hit 2 hole-in-ones in her life. 2 of them.
Wow.
I've heard of 1, but I've never heard of an individual hitting 2.
Wow, good for her.
So she did well. But anyways, so that is the story. Now you know at least my side of the family somewhat. As far as me, I'm not athletic. I play the piano. I've never won a competition. The only bragging rights I actually have is going to solo an ensemble my first year. That year I played the Fantasy Impromptu and got a 1. But I think I may have been the only, quite possibly the only student where I got to play one solo and the judge is waiting for the next soloist. He doesn't show up and ask me if I want to play another solo. So I go up there and I played Liebestraum number 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to play 2 solos.
Good for you.
So that was fun. But anyways, that's what I have for you today. Now, look, I didn't have very much time to prepare for PSI today, simply because, as you can see, I got called into work this morning, which cut my research time really short. So I grabbed the first things I could find, in the archives, and I did bring them here, which I think you'll find interesting. I didn't bring any movies today, so we won't have a PSI at the cinemas today. But here's what I have for you. We talked about this person quite often. This is a CD recording of Nadia Boulanger.
Oh.
But look what's on it. Here, I'll let you handle the French.
Cheerleading. Yeah. The Works of Monteverdi is what the big title is. Oh, look who's playing the piano.
Yes, sing it in French. Do you know that?
Œuvre de Monteverdi.
Yeah.
And then she includes Liebeslieder waltzes of Brahms, the Mondschein of Schubert, vocal and instrumental ensemble. She was a conductor. Dino Lopati is her pianist.
Pianist, yeah.
How the devil did that work out?
I know. No, I thought I had the complete recordings of Dino Lopati until I found this.
Wow.
So here, let me show it to you.
Cool.
It's very cool.
Was that a half-price book thing?
No, I think this was not a half-price thing. I think this was a thrift store thing, believe it or not.
That's pretty cool.
And it's released by Pearl, the Pearl recording label. So it is an antique. Now, so you've heard of this Mondschein?
Mm-hmm.
What is it?
That's a choral piece by Schubert. It means moonshine, the
Yeah.
light of the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a choral work.
Mm-hmm.
Is it secular or is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that. He wrote some things for the church sometimes, but
yeah.
There's a tremendous amount of choral music that he also wrote for. I would say that men's choruses,
yeah.
as a public institution,
yeah.
grown out of college singing and boys choirs,
yeah,
and and not church choirs,
okay,
was becoming a thing in Schubert's time. I don't think so much in Beethoven, but with Schubert it wasn't. Of course, as you go through the 19th century, by the time you get to Brahms and Mahler, the professional level of these amateur choruses in Vienna, for example,
mm-hmm.
was really quite impressive, because Brahms wrote a lot of stuff for them.
Yeah.
And they're not easy pieces. And all of these people had other professions, but they got together and sang as a social group and then as a chorus.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no radio, no TV, no a lot of things back in the 19th century, so it was an outlet and a good social one. What we're doing in Columbus is a continuity of that tradition. But there are, oh my God, gorgeous pieces of Schubert for men's chorus, also for ladies. But he was already writing stuff like that for his colleagues when he was at school at the Imperial Academy. Schubert has a sound, especially with the guys' voices when they're singing as a chorus. I have one CD by a Finnish chorus, or maybe they're Finnish or Icelandic, but they do, 15 to 20 pieces of Schubert. That's one of my favorite things to listen to sometimes. It's something that just goes right into your belly like good food and into your heart. It's very soothing. And the music is so beautiful. Voice leading and all that, it's remarkable.
Yeah, and nobody did it better. Really, Schubert, really done. Have you heard of any of these? Did you look at the tracks from Monteverdi?
No, I didn't actually look. I knew the operas better.
Oh,
He
okay.
wrote a ton of stuff, and I'm not sure how much of it probably is sacred.
Uh-huh.
I don't have to look, but back in those days, church was still running the show.
Okay.
But she was, yeah, especially known for her choral directing. That was her big performance outlet. Of course, she was a famous teacher. But she was also one of those people. I'm thinking Wanda Landowska in Paris before the Nazis chased her out. But then some of those other folks in the earlier 20th century are really looking back to the old music. And I mentioned this in one of our recent videos that it's like anything that happened before the Second World War nobody remembers or knows about. Yeah. And in truth, there was a lot of destruction, you know. But it's very interesting that, I mean, if you look at Godowsky with all of that Renaissance music that he wrote, which are arrangements of Rameau and
even Bach,
and I mean, but a lot of early music, Lully, and some of the Italian composers, Arcangelo Corelli. There's a piece that he wrote based on a Christmas piece I played. There was quite a bit of knowledge and interest in old music, and in fact, in the first historic recital of the group of 12 that Anton Rubinstein did, how far does he go back? He goes before J.S. Bach.
Yeah, he does.
There's some music in there where he's going back before Bach. So people knew about stuff. I don't know that it had the audience or the popularity that it's developed. I mean, especially Gustav Leonhardt and the influence and stuff like that. I'd say from the 50s on, and probably, I remember at least in the 80s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
Early music was pretty hot. There was also an interesting thing. There was a development in the universities in the 60s in a fascination for early instruments, pre-Bach stuff. So many schools had Collegium Musicum, they called it, or early music ensembles and things. Wittenberg had one.
Wow.
And then there were people teaching it stuff, of course, through when I was in school. But it's interesting because John Cage even became interested. He wrote some things that included the harpsichord in the 1960s. And of course, I've got some interesting old hippie records with some interesting instrumentation.
Yeah.
And you know, in the Bob Newhart show, back when he was a psychologist in Chicago, is there a harpsichord thing in the music at all? You know, it would have been electronic probably. But you know that back in the day when they were doing those electric piano sounds, and then sometimes they'd use a harpsichord.
Yeah, I know the sound you're talking about.
There was a TV show.
There was a TV show, The Odd Couple.
What was it? That's a harpsichord.
That's a harpsichord.
That's right. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah. So there was some fascination for it. It's interesting now. I think early music people are completely established now. It's not like it's something, they are who they are. And I mean, fabulous organizations. Roger Norrington's work with his ensembles. Neville Mariner with the Academy of St. Martin.
Consort players.
All kinds of things like that. But it's interesting to me, like when Yunchon did his concert in England.
The Wigmore Hall recital. Yeah.
He was playing, was it
Dolan?
John Dolan.
Yeah.
And people are playing John Boland. There's a Kit, what's his name?
Kit Armstrong.
Kit Armstrong, who often does pre-jazz Bach wide ways repertoire on the keyboard. And it's interesting, it's on the piano. That's interesting to me because there was a period of time where when early music people kind of took over certain repertoire sufficiently that commercially I think certain artists kind of avoided certain stuff for a while. But now you got these guys thoroughly pianists, and they're playing it's really old stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, nobody would have played Couperin, for example, on a piano for a period of time, you know. And for that matter, you'd only hear Couperin on a French harpsichord, you know. So it was interesting, but the nice thing is that there's so many recordings now, so many amazing performers. We talked about this with the recent one I edited about. We talked about J.S. Bach a lot.
Yeah, we did.
Went back and looked at Landowska's good contributions and Rosalind Turek and of course Glenn Gould and various people that came on, but I remember Elsie Hall playing all that Bach on that Marston Records we talked about.
Yeah.
I think it was Elsie, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Elsie, It was very good.
So it's an interesting time to be living. I think classical music is well, suffering, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's a bit under the gun in certain ways.
Oh, yeah.
But I think this is because of a true, it's not even a renaissance in some cases, but a naissance, a birth of an awareness and excitement, enthusiasm for music of the world. Lots of countries and different cultures that contribute music, and people are really fascinated. And you don't have to travel to hear it, you know. The artists can record things, they can stream it, they can put it up on the internet.
Yeah.
People get really excited about it. I know one group that I like. I can't think of its name now. I'm sorry, but you guys in the forum could write in, or I'll find it. But it's a Mongolian group.
Oh.
They're kind of like rock musicians in a way, but they use traditional Mongolian instruments.
Oh, that's...
Plus, they do that throat singing, like Tibetan monks are famous for.
Really?
That kind of stuff, and do stuff in rhythm and things.
Wow.
I forget what their name is, but they are a phenomenon such that they have, I think probably partially because of the throat singing, and I think there is something, in a sense, native and shamanistic about their music, even though they're doing it as a mixture of ancient traditions blended with modern sounds and things like that. There's something spiritual about it that really grabs you and holds you and affects you. I think because there's that aspect of magic in it. But the fans are worldwide, and they're nuts for it.
Wow, you'll have to give me the name when you find out.
Introduce it to you.
I want to know what it is.
I discovered it. I was introduced to them when I was a professor in Cyprus. Some of my students said, "You know about this and that," and they gave me some recordings, and I started following them quite a bit at that time. Less so now, but there's just so much. There's some North African and some music from Senegal. I think is really wonderful. It's just amazing, everything that's available, and that it can be transmitted.
Yeah.
I think that's what prevented it in the past. So the hegemony of white, European, American, North American culture in general is perhaps taking its place in the whole world arena of culture and arts and music. And I think the one thing that affects it, of course, is the money part gets affected. And I'm seeing that a lot in England. There's tremendous amount of cuts and changes and things being made there. That's partially because of their Brexit stupidity. I get it, you know, historically and so forth, you identify a little bit separate from the continent, but economically, posit yourself against a growing European economy. No, that was not a good choice. But, so they're kind of paying for that. But here we've had some issues too, here and there, things happening, and it's just what it is. It's what it will be. But, you know, like we've said before, though, I mean, how many people are truly into Western classical music in terms of the percentage of the world population? But like they usually say, if you're lucky, 10%. if you're lucky.
Yeah.
Sometimes, for some reasons, it might go up 15%. Sometimes it'll be below 10%, especially depending on what you're interested in. Sometimes that bottom of the iceberg stuff that we talk about,
Yeah.
there's probably about only 2 or 3% of the people that are interested in it.
Yeah.
But it's like, I think it's important, like right now, as tastes are changing,
Yeah.
people like us are necessary to just keep waving our little flags and say, hey, this is worth remembering, this is worth hearing, this is worth lending yourself to. Just the actions of the little people, like the Oompa Loompas running around, doing our classical piano work, keeping people aware of things that might otherwise get forgotten and lost. And that's good enough.
Yeah, well, I told you, a couple of weeks ago while I was over at the store playing the piano, I did spend 2 hours playing classical music.
Yeah.
I did, and it was not that, people didn't notice. They noticed, especially when I got into the Chopin etudes, and they had never heard the Revolutionary Etude before.
Right.
Some of them have, but they've never seen it live.
Wow.
And so that was a bit of a shock.
Good for you.
So people are still discovering this stuff. Okay, I mean, for us, it's all had. We've listened to it our whole lives, but there's still a percentage of people out there that have never heard of the Revolutionary Etude.
I think those are the post-hippie kids. The 60s changed things a lot. The alternate culture. Yeah. They were intentionally opposed to mom and dad's. The whole white American hegemony thing with Beethoven.
Oh.
They're doing the, what's the Dead, right? Grateful Dead. I mean, all that music. Yeah. Really interesting stuff sometimes. But I think their children, the children of the 60s, are not necessarily as informed or as enlightened as people were before, because the hippies forced people to address other things besides what was classically, or let's say part of Western classical education training. Because as it happened where I was in school, we were a bit behind the scenes. So, we learned about Bach and Beethoven and Haydn and Mozart and stuff in music, of course, in school.
Right.
And, everybody was taking piano lessons back then, playing in orchestras and all that kind of thing. But I think as a generational thing, the babies born from a lot of those hippie parents who were intentionally, just fighting the system and fighting everything, all that. They threw the baby out with the bathwater, one might say, But the good thing is that you get like cool people like Viking Olafsson or Igor Levitt who really appeal to the younger audience, or even the Helen Grimaud, right? Yeah, Helen Grimaud. And they're good-looking young people. They're cool. That's a whole different world. I mean, she was extraordinary little kid prodigy on it, and I get it. I mean, I like what she's doing in terms of wearing the clothes that she does. Yeah. It's her way of expressing her feminine power. It's also, kind of a raised middle finger to conservative classical ways, because put it this way, you may not like the way she dresses, you may think she's kind of arrogant and everything else, but when she starts playing the Georgie Schiffer transcriptions, better than Georgie could play.
Probably.
Or the Bizet Carmen variations of Horowitz. I mean, you can't fault her, as an artist, as a performer, and frankly, it's not just the show and the glitz. There's real meat on the bones when she plays.
Absolutely.
It's very good stuff. I think it's different. It's a different approach than Yun Chun Lim. I mean, this boy really gets chamber music understanding. I'm not sure if it's true in all the concertos. It'd be interesting to hear him play some of the other repertoire eventually.
Well, there was a Mozart concerto round.
Really?
Remember? Yeah, the Van Cliburn.
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, there was they did away with the chamber music, the piano quintet round. Yeah, they did away with that one and replaced it with Mozart concerto.
Oh, that's good.
So they did Mozart.
What did he play?
I don't remember. That's such a long.
But it got him through to the finals.
Yeah.
But what's unusual with the Rachmaninoff Third in terms of tradition applying it,
Yeah.
people think Rachmaninoff. It is notorious as one of the most difficult of all concerti for the pianist. But then there's also those ego things that people get connected to, which it's Rachmaninoff, big bang, and just stomp and splash your way through it. And he plays like chamber music.
Oh yeah, he does.
I mean, it's like if it were Schumann or Brahms with the strings and everything.
I'm looking forward to hearing what the Chopin etudes sound like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some interesting remarks from some people, some reviews about their impressions of him.
Yeah.
He's quite orientally and poetic-y about his view of the etudes.
Yeah.
I don't mean that in a kind of bad way, but it's a reflection upon the way the mind's got. I learned from a very dear Japanese professor friend, Sanroko-san. He had been a professor for 25 years at Ohio University here down in Athens.
Oh,
right?
Ohio U.
Yeah, OU. And he was a professor of English and Oriental literature, specifically Japanese literature.
Wow.
And he moved back to Japan near the end of his career, partially because he preferred to die there eventually, be part of the system. The Japanese have a very good healthcare system, especially as people get old, kind of like the German one as well. So I met him and his wife. They were wonderful, Kimio-san and Sanroko-san. And he told me one time I said, what's the difference in your mind between reading a page of Dickens and reading a page of Lady Murasaki in Japanese? And he said, it's an entirely different world. He said, English is a very, very, very specific language. He said, and I think part of the reason it's so difficult is that you have known thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of more words than a lot of other languages do to describe things. In all areas, poetic things, scientific things, but you can get very microscopic about the way that you can define something, like Marcel Proust, of course that's French, but when it's translated, it's like the guy is constantly looking through a microscope at life and talking about all the little tiny details and stuff, which he finds so fascinating. Which can be. That's why it's such a slow read and very slow kind of pace to get through stuff. And he said, reading Dickens is very interesting because he said, there's all those clauses in there and there's a comma. He said, you're looking somewhere, there's a sentence, but then you have to kind of sparse your way through to find out what the point is, right? And he said, I find myself, if I read a page of Dickens, it's like you take very fine tools when you're doing woodwork or something and just polishing and getting it down to the grayness, looks a certain way, and the shape of it is a certain way. Do you like this? And there's contextual things in terms of time, temporality, all that kind of thing. He said, but it's all here. You see it, in a sense, in your mind's eye, as they say. But he said, when I look at a page of characters, kanji, the Japanese call them, which is Chinese characters, which they borrowed, and generally the meaning is pretty much the same as for the Chinese. Pronunciation's different, but he said it's amazing because he said with the pictograms, and that's an important word, he said, in Japanese, he said it's not too hard to find the verb because it's always at the end of the sentence, and then it's modified. So you understand the sense of time or temporality or condition or subjectiveness right there immediately once you see the verb. So you have a sense of in what time and how in a way, certain kinds of things. And then he said, and then you see just these characters. And he said, the really great thing is, there's a character for trees in the springtime. And the Japanese actually have a word that they use for that particular, very much alive, somewhat light, but very much green color on the leaves as they newly open on the trees and things like that.
Wow.
They call it in Japanese the spring green, which is only a green which is associated with the spring green. But when you see them talking about a tree, so the great thing is you see the pictogram of the tree, and he said in English you think tree, okay, tree, okay, in your head, okay, it's a tree, it's that thing with things sticking out.
Yeah,
it's got leaves on it, got roots in the ground, and then you have adjectives to describe the tree. Is it an oak tree? Is it a pine tree?
Yeah.
Is it a tree in the fall? Well, that means the leaves have changed. Yeah. Or is it a tree in the winter? They're fall all this.
Yeah.
He said in the Chinese character, he says, you see the tree, and maybe there's something else in the character was saying it's wintertime or something like that. But the difference is you don't understand it in the mind's eye. He said, you experience being there in 360. You are with the tree at that time of year, in that season. And there are all these relative things to it that immediately are right there instantly. There's the smell of what the tree is like, because you know what the tree smells like in the springtime. And then there's the sounds of the birds and the insects in the air and the breeze blowing, the condition of clouds and the sun and all that. He said, when you see a page of kanji, he said, it's full of images and colors and extra physical sensations. I got a little too far on that path off, because I don't quite remember why I was talking about it. Do you? But I don't remember how I jumped off onto that while we were talking about it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
But I want to make one more connection to that since we went that far.
Yeah.
It might have been what I was intending to do anyway. Music symbols are the same thing as those Chinese, Japanese symbols. Yeah. I had something interesting that a fellow at the Mentor Court Tuesday night. He's a wonderful guy. He's a dentist, just retired recently, and he and his wife have a baking business too.
Whoa.
When he came over here from Germany ages ago, he was trained as a baker. Okay. And he did that, but then he realized, oh, this is going to be awful work and hard work my whole life. And there's not the tradition of it in America like there was in Germany. Yeah. So he went to school out in Cleveland, became a dentist. Did really well. His second wife is a nurse, massage therapist, also a very gifted baker. Wow. And especially also cooking too. They throw amazing Christmas parties. But he said something to me. He said, I was talking about specifically about something I brought to the rehearsals and stuff about those intangible things that make it emotional and tangible and make, he said it stirs up images for him, that pulls him into the emotion, deeply into the sense of the meaning of the words and music. So, he said, my wife, he said, I didn't know this about Jeannie, but he said, she's a really pretty good pianist. She plays at home. Wow. He said she reads well and plays pretty well and everything. He said, but she doesn't feel it. And then I don't feel it when she plays. I said, but he said, when you make music, he said, it's like it becomes alive. It's like it has this extra stuff that's going on. And I appreciate that, because that's what I try to do, and that's what I admire in good music making. I think that's what Yun Chun Lin does. Yeah. And then I know why I got into that, because I didn't mean to be offensive at all. It's because I talked about Sanroku stuff. Yeah. About when he talks about thinking of each one of the etudes in a picturesque way. There's something connected with nature or emotions or an image in nature. It's about the wind blowing over the wheat, and whatever. At the end of the Debussy preludes, they're all poetic titles. Yeah. It's interesting. He puts them at the end of the preludes because Debussy said, at the end, this is more or less what I thought might be a possible image that it brings out. Huh. But he didn't put it at the beginning or give that name to the prelude because he didn't want that to constrict your interpretation of it. Right. So he puts it at the end. Like there's one, what the West Wind Saw or something, or the
Yeah.
or there's the famous Cathédrale Engloutie in Gulf Cathedral, but that is not the name of the prelude.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning, what is that? Number what? Gulf Cathedral. In the first book.
Yeah, it's
they'll just have numbers and then musically descriptive, interpretive ways to do it. And then at the very end, there's always a poetic connection.
Yeah.
But it's actually written in books that the reason he did it that way is one person said, well, he kind of came out of the Impressionistic era. So it wasn't that he was telling you how to see the painting, but he was suggesting after it was done, this is kind of like what he experienced or what his personal view might be of it. I love the Footsteps in the Snow.
Oh, that one, that's a homage.
No, that's one of the preludes.
It's a book too?
I forget the French title. But it talks about footprints in the snow.
Right.
And it's that one, dee-dum, 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 dee-dum. It's just the stillness of everything. I love Alfred Cortez playing that. It's wonderful. Des pas sur la... No. What's the word for snow in French? Des pas sur la...
Something
neige.
Neige.
Des
I
pas...
think it was something like
Des
that.
pas sur la neige. Yeah. So anyway, no, I got all into the thing with Sal Robertson about that because I've never forgotten certain things when people tell me stuff like that because it's become useful for me.
Yeah.
And it's like when Chopin famously wrote at some point when he was complaining about, especially as his music developed in nuance and deeper character and stuff, the higher the opus numbers go. He complained, and of course Bartók solved the problem in a way.
Yeah.
But back in Chopin's day, he complained that he actually said in writing to somebody, "This is what they give me to write down my ideas," meaning standard musical notation. Like it wasn't in his mind or something to come up with something new, but he complained about the fact that he said, "I can write down the notes that I'm playing."
Yeah.
And, give some articulative and some dynamic considerations to it. But he said, what about the rest of the stuff?
Yeah.
How do I explain it to them? How do they know? And of course, that became the necessary tradition, which a lot of modern cultures don't understand, especially in some places. But the one-on-one communication between the master and the student, passing on an oral tradition of understanding the music in the way that at least this is what I learned from my teacher. And hopefully if you're close enough back to the master, like with Mikuli, with Chopin, then Friedman studied with Mikuli. That's why they often thought that Friedman was probably playing the way Chopin intended things to be played. And of course, it's a very refreshing and interesting way of playing his music, which is quite different from Rubinstein.
Oh, yeah.
Rubinstein's is very, impressive and very masculine. And I think the difference is Rubinstein's is more muscular often. I mean, he plays beautiful nocturnes and things like that.
More regal quality.
Yes. Okay. And what I get with Friedman sometimes the way he plays things. This is not what I mean to say. So, but I would say maybe Rubinstein plays Chopin. Regal is good. Muhammad Ali is a boxer, light on his feet, but really powerful, and really able to throw a blow when he needs to. Really good articulation, powerful stuff. Friedman's playing reminds me of Nijinsky or Nureyev or Baryshnikov. It's a male or a female, depending on the zerk is the thing. But it's more balletic.
Yeah.
you know, that there's more of this breaking of time. The
Unrestrained.
rubato has something to do
Yeah.
with the sense of time being affected when the person suddenly is levitating in the air.
Yeah.
And there's that suspension of and then that breath you make. I mean, when you see like some of these amazing pictures, you see these still pictures. I put one up in one of our films of Baryshnikov.
Yeah,
The White Knights, right?
Yeah. White Knights.
You know, he's a little guy.
Yeah.
And then when you see how high he is above the stage, and he's up there with the legs spread out like this, how the hell did he get up there? And of course, the amazing thing that they learn to do physically with their body is by flattening out the legs and keeping the things and maintaining that moment, just a moment or two of freezing that position.
Yep.
It seems like they're floating, like time stopped.
Yeah.
Just that long. Just that it happens that long.
The hang time.
The hang time. Yeah. Well, yeah, baseball people get that, or basketball people, but I think especially baseball sometimes. Who is that guy? Guy with the massive arms that played for St. Louis because he took the drugs until they finally.
Oh, I know.
Mike, what's his name?
McGuire.
Mike McGuire.
McGuire, yeah.
I mean, talk hang time. You're talking about it went up to the top of the stadium.
And it just hung up there. It's not coming down.
It doesn't even come back out in the field. Out it goes, just disappeared.
Yeah.
You know, I remember some occasions like that where you just see this beautiful shot. It's not a line drive, home run. It's just one of these it's like a golf thing.
Yeah.
The way they hit it, kaboom.
They're just watching.
And it's so cool because if you've ever been in a baseball stadium, people just for a moment.
Yeah.
There's no noise, and you just see people going like this.
Is it coming down?
And of course, the outfielder, he's got enough experience that, oh, that sucker's gone. I'm going to waste my time. But yeah, that's kind of what it's like. That's the magic, you know?
Yeah.
It's what I love so much about Yunchun.
Yeah.
When he plays, he's got that balletic thing. So yeah, it all started with talking about how his H's are going to sound.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be very interesting because of this attitude that he brings.
Yeah.
It could be enlightening. I mean,
Oh, it should be. I mean, it
be,
could be something that's never, I mean, definitely it's going to be something that's never been done before.
I mean, how many guys have really put him down? What's his face famously, the German who beat Rubinstein ages ago?
Fisher?
No, before him, you know, dude, but he had the hair when he was young.
Buckhouse?
Bachhaus.
Yeah, Buckhouse.
Doesn't Bachhaus.
Yeah.
He's probably was the first one that recorded the complete etudes, right?
Probably one of the first.
Yeah.
One of the first.
And they're still amazing to listen to.
Oh, yeah.
Really. Bellini did them. I mean, here and there you get guys that do the etudes.
Oh, many of them. Many.
Not as many, though, as play a lot of other things.
Yeah.
I think you probably...
Louis Lorty.
You could count on a lot of hands of ones that did all the Beethoven for charity, for example.
Yeah.
And then quite a number of pianists that did the sonatas.
Oh, yeah.
Even Rubinstein didn't record all of the Chopin etudes.
Yeah.
In fact, except for maybe a rare video, or I don't know if there's old audio stuff.
Yeah.
That's the one thing in the great Chopin collection of all of Chopin. I mean, even the little pieces, the Tarantella, all those kind of things like
Bolero.
that. Bolero. He recorded that stuff.
Yeah.
Was there a country piece? The Krakowiak? Did he do
Krakowiak.
it?
I don't know if he did the Krakowiak. There's also the variations of La Città
Yeah, I don't know if he did those, but he did. I mean, in terms of solo repertoire, it's all there. I bought more or less invested in the 60s, a period of time when he recorded everything. There's no etudes in there. And yet there's in that performance of 6 of them in Moscow.
I know.
From that video recording that they did in Russia. He could play just as well as anybody. They're amazing performances.
But there's that video of him going to that piano store. It was an old black and white video of him
I
going
haven't
to the
seen
piano
it. She's
store.
talking about this.
And he does the first etude.
Yeah?
He just does like the first page. He's just going boom, boom. It's amazing. amazing.
I think it's interesting. Friedman,
He could have done that. He had the hands for that.
I think part of the reason maybe why Rubinstein sounds the way he does and approaches things is because he studied with Heinrich Barth.
I think
Barth was exponent of a really grand German tradition of playing the piano. One of Rubinstein's fellow students was Wilhelm Kempf, for example.
Yeah.
Barth was a strict Germanic kind of teacher, I think, probably even in the sense of the way François Bülow apparently was prepared, for example. There was a kind of a German style of playing. And I think that could, in terms of definitely starting out with his technique and everything, would have affected Rubinstein's playing in a certain kind of way.
Yeah.
I think he talks about it a little bit, but I think it's once he moves to Paris and lives in Paris and becomes French and is exposed to other music. Because he plays quite a bit of Germanic repertoire to start early on in his career. But then eventually he embraces, like the French do, a whole different view of the world and the way of playing, which may have changed his soul and his spirit in a certain kind of way that gives him...
Well, I'll tell you, I remember in one of his memoirs that Professor Bart not only taught him how to play the piano, but he also taught him about his stage manner.
Yes.
Do you remember that? There's an episode in one of those books. He talks about the American pianists. He says, and he said he pokes at them, and he says, "Look," he says, "American pianists have wonderful technique. They play it better than I do. Serious, they play better than I do. But when they go out on stage, they look like soda jerks." And that was the word he used. They look like soda jerks.
Yeah.
Their manner on stage. He says he wishes that they could have learned proper stage manner from Bart, Professor Bart, because he says he learned everything about proper stage manner from his Professor Bart, and he taught him that from the very beginning when he used to perform for Bart. So that was amazing.
I especially think very old-fashioned manner of coming out on stage and bowing and everything. I always remember Shor Tchaikovsky, little guy. He comes out and he's so formal, It's not like a big deep bow, but it's very much a bow from the waist. Yeah. And for whatever reason, he always bows a little bit to the left when he goes down. Yeah. But just the whole physical way that he comports himself, and then he comes on and off stage, and he's very brisk, and comes out there and kind of dutifully bows, and then sits, plays, and then he gets up, and it's the same kind of thing. There's a crisp courtliness about it, frankly, that you don't see.
Yeah. Now compare them to how, like, the likes of Evgeny Kassin or Yuja Wang, the way they bow. You've never seen them bow?
Well, Yuja, I've seen her,
You've seen her bow? Okay.
Yeah, it's like she's doing yoga.
I didn't look at it as yoga.
Or
I don't know, you might want
that doll that just completely collapsed. Like she's just showing off that, I can touch the floor.
Yeah. but she does this thing with her arms.
Oh.
Her one arm, while the other one is like on the piano or something.
Yeah.
But her chest goes down first, and then her head, and then she goes up.
She looks like a marionette.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what about Evgeny?
Evgeny Kassin? He's more like, do you remember those little trinkets at the souvenir store where you had this little bird that had these liquid?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He flips over.
And then goes back up like that.
He does that.
That's personally, that's what Kassin looks like.
He stands there and just tips back up.
Is what it looks like.
I was thinking about him.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not Evgeny Kassin, and I'm not Yun Chun Lim. I'm not Alfred Bernard. I'm a good pianist. I'm
He's
a good
definitely not
musician.
Yuja Wang either.
No, definitely. No.
Sorry. I had to throw that.
No, but what I mean is, I think I've made many people happy with my concerts and my playing, and I think I have plenty to say and teach and demonstrate as a musician. And I'm like one of those people, as we've already said, I'm on the under part of the iceberg. That's my home. I'm not the part. I mean, once in a while, maybe I was a little bit above the water. And stick up and have my moment in the sun.
Depends on the tide.
But I work very hard, or doing what I do and learning my craft and doing it all over the place. What I mean to say was like when Evgeny Kissin came up, I think he's got to be at least in his 50s now.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So any of those artists, we're about the same age. I'm 62. For a period of time, pretty much when I went into Wittenberg, not so much then, but definitely when I got to Howard in 80, when was that? 86? I'd say between 86 and until I was a professor, beginning in 2004. You're talking about a 14, 16-year period, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
I was making music.
Oh, yeah.
I was busy, either learning it, teaching, playing concerts, whatever. Sometimes attending things here and there. I remember when I got very excited about seeing Stephen Huff in Madison, at least twice. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ellsworth didn't like it, but I thought, wow, there's something here. He was a little rigid when he was younger, and a little Horowitz-y in a kind of a too fast, show-offy kind of way that Ellsworth didn't like that. He hated playing like that. But, it worked for him.
Yeah.
I think he's matured and it really,
I
have great respect for him. But I remember just a few moments, people like that. And then, of course, I was listening to some recordings necessarily for things and for my own pleasure, but a lot of what I had access to or was listening to was older guys.
Yeah.
And I've always been attracted to the really old guys.
Oh, yeah.
Because I spent time growing up with my grandparents, and I have this connection with pre-Depression era people, or people who survived through all that. Going back, my grandfather was born in 1897, the year that Brahms died. I missed out on a lot of these people's careers. Evgeny Kissin, I heard about him, and I heard people, talking about him and stuff. Once in a while, I'd hear a little bit of something, and I think, well, yeah, boy can play. But I was making so much music, I really wasn't able to listen and evaluate and everything, as I think I've been able to do since I was a professor, and then since then up till now. Yeah. I had various times. I mean, during COVID, fortunately, I saw an income coming in from some of my work. Even though I couldn't do it, they still paid me. Yeah. Uncle Sam was kind of nice a couple times, right? Yeah. And I just threw myself into studying and reading and listening, and opening myself to all new things. 20th Century School of Italian Conductors, and then the old, what they called French School of Piano. Yeah. But there's that portion of performers, I missed it, because I was one of them. Yeah. Not on the same brilliant, high world levels place, but I was busy. Of course, and I really didn't have time to follow them. And in some cases, you get older, I'm looking at, less time to be alive than I used to have. So I think a little bit more prudently about what I want to spend my time on and what I want to hear, listen, and evaluate. I make very quick, dismissive decisions about things that don't seem interesting to me, where I used to give people the benefit of the doubt longer. Yeah. If I listen for 5, maybe 10 minutes, and I don't hear anything there, then that's it. That's it. That's it. That was their chance. Because I would rather spend the next hour on something that has proven endurance, Yeah. Like I told you a while back when I was going to play the Schumann. Yeah. First movement with that kid, that girl. Yeah. Competed. I was listening to something, because I know why. It's because she told me, well, I like Christian Zimmerman's.
Schumann or the Greek?
Greek, you're right, it was Greek.
Okay.
It was Greek, yeah. And she was really quite an insightful player. She gave me advice about how she wanted me to play things. Kid, 18, 16, 17, something like that. Like they say, Bellini used to really be in charge of the whole concerto. He knew everything that was happening. And I wasn't offended. I thought, okay, that's the way she wants it. And then she'd say, no, when you come in, it was very important that the whole thing was a good, cohesive performance, not just her part.
Right.
I had mine prepared and did it and everything. And I responded a few times until we got it the way, is this what you want? Is this what you like? Frankly, you should do it that way, because, it is a piece that's working together. I didn't feel like she treated me as a accompanist, but I was a part of the whole thing, and I had to be right for it to be right.
Yeah.
That's fine. But I was listening to just a few other performances, because you don't hear the Greek that much, and I was just curious, some videos came up, this and that. There's this girl, I don't know who she was. Bang, 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 ring, and the hands go up there. I said, that's enough. I knew what was going to happen. I was going to watch somebody masturbate on stage.
Oh, God.
I've always preferred to eat my own food, make my own love, say my own prayers. It's just, I don't need to watch somebody else do it. Although I do like Feed Phil on the Netflix channel. That was good. Because then I'm like, in a sense, how do you say, you do something through somebody? But I could eat the food that he was enjoying through.
Oh,
Not vociferously, voraciously. There's a V word. Doing it that way. But no, it's like there's another couple. I kind of listened to some people. Christian Zimmerman's was very interesting. It was recording maybe from Karia when I was 19. It's really quite good.
Wow. Young kid.
But no, that's just, I just figured that book is kind of closed on certain folks, because I don't know. And so I don't mean to people might disagree with my son. There have been people who probably had pretty successful careers and so did it. But they're going to make the cut up there, with Babe Ruth and Ty Cobb. Really up there. And do I want to spend that much time on them?
Yeah.
That's
understandably.
So that's kind of my thing. So sometimes, some more about some of these pianists and musicians in my lifetime than I do. Sometimes I know a lot about the old guys.
Yeah.
History. We had to study all that stuff, but that's kind of, if you look through my LP collection that I grew up with, you understand.
I understand completely. Who
affected me,
Well, let me ask you about another.
I'm sorry I got kind of.
That's all right. That's all right. It's what we're here for. They like you.
Okay.
So, what do you think of Emil Galel's?
I've got some good performances of his.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. What was interesting about Galel's is he's from the Russian school.
Yeah.
But he developed quite a notoriety for a very narrow window of composition.
Yeah.
Beethoven, less so Mozart, but Beethoven for sure.
Grieg.
I didn't know that.
He has.
Doesn't surprise me.
He has a CD. Deutsche Grammophon has a CD of him performing a bunch of lyrical pieces.
Oh, only Grieg.
Just Grieg. Lyrical pieces.
Really?
A bunch of them.
So I also liked his Brahms too, but
the Brahms
it was interesting because Galel's, for example, I think one of the recordings I have of either Brahms or Beethoven, he's playing with what's his name? Really great German conductor, Karl Böhm.
Oh, I remember it.
And
Yeah.
by the way,
Yeah.
when I spoke in one of the recent videos, I don't think I put it up to change my point because I couldn't get a good picture of it online. The Polini performance of the Beethoven Fourth that I love so much to have on LP is with Carl Böhm, not Claudio Abbado. He did do the thing with Abbado later on, when Abbado was in Berlin.
Yeah.
But this is with the Vienna Philharmonic with Carl Böhm, and he was still working.
Wow.
And Polini's much younger, you know, in that thing. But that's the performance that I love so much. And I wonder if he and Böhm worked out some kind of understanding that the whole thing is beautiful. Really, it's quite well done and somehow recorded fabulously and everything. But the second movement, and then going into the third movement, it takes your breath out of you just a little bit. And then, you know, it's an attack in the third movement. But just that, when she just faints away at the very end, just those notes, you know, and this on the piano, the very last notes just fade away, and she's gone forever. And you know,
the one.
and even when that comes in, it's so, because sometimes it can be a little punctuated.
Yeah. If you're not careful on that.
I can imagine like Bernstein in a euphoric moment, just no, it's like, come on, now hold on the horses, and it's Carl Böhm, and it's because it's timpani, isn't it?
Yeah,
it is. Like that. Yeah. It's quieter, and it's like the loss is there, and he has to live with that for the rest of his life. You know, he's never going to see her again.
Yeah.
And yet, la vie continue, life goes on. Yeah. And there's that sense of giving the guy, Orpheus, enough space and time to come back into the world, into the sun. And the way they play it. I mean, this is we talking poetic. That's that, what cold Maurizio Pollini and Böhm do together to the Beethoven Fourth, I think was extraordinary.
Well, I brought up Camille Galel's because of this wonderful recording.
Wow.
Russian label.
Well, oh, yes, it is. I don't know Weinberg at all.
I didn't.
Well, he plays Petrushka. He did that.
But look at the Petrushka, though.
Play it. These are other things.
Yeah, he expanded it, and he actually
arranged by Emil Galel.
Yes.
That'd be really cool to hear.
5 movements.
That's called Kniga. Kniga? No, that's not what those letters mean. Scriabin's Fourth.
Yeah.
Orpheus Third. Wow, the Mattner 10th.
Yeah, A minor. He does the G minor.
This would be really cool to hear. I've got a fabulous recording of the Beethoven Passionata.
Oh, yeah.
And even more so, I think more amazing, Waldstein. Galel's Waldstein is really incredible, especially the variations in the last moment. He was a really amazing pianist. You know, to be honest, when I was in Madison studying with Hart Card, and my the studio mate, Jonathan Sokasitz. Jonathan, I'm not sure where you are now. Maybe he was teaching in Kansas, I think. But he'd gone to Ithaca, and then he took his master's and his doctorate with Howard at Madison. He was amazing. He had a big, tall guy, very quick mind, very quick learner, really good memorizer, very fast, and very, very adept on the piano.
Yeah.
He and I would talk about our favorite pianists, and he really was very passionate about the Russian school, and a lot of Russian pianists.
Oh, yeah.
I think he really loved Richter, for example. I was honest with you, as we talked about before. I don't know how much of this conversations has ever made it up into our published shows, but we didn't grow up with access to a lot of the Russian musicians on record and stuff.
Not a lot, no.
I mean, we had Camelot Music, is basically where we got most of our stuff. You couldn't order things through the mail.
No, you could.
And then you could join Columbia House or RCA.
RCA, yeah.
But you get what they produce.
Yeah.
And they're commercially producing American artists, American orchestras, some Europeans, but especially if they come over. But then Camelot you started to see Angel and Seraphim recordings from England.
Yeah, those.
And did a bunch of Deutsche Grammophon. And then one of the ones from Holland.
Oh, boy.
From the Netherlands. Very famous company.
Gosh.
I can't think now.
I can't think
But
of
I
it.
remember when Deutsche Grammophon came along. And wow, it was kind of wonderful because suddenly there was it was just new artists and new things. And someone was just struck. I remember with Angel or Seraphim, the recordings of Dennis Brain. I thought, Brain, that's an interesting name.
Dennis Brain? Yeah.
But he was one of the most famous French horn players of the 20th century.
That's EMI.
Never heard about him. I think we might have read about him in a book or something. Yeah. But finally, there he is on the recordings, playing Mozart and Strauss or something.
Yeah, that's his. That's pretty much the go-to recording for French horns.
Philips.
Philips?
That's Dutch.
Oh, that's Dutch.
Yeah, they were Philips. Because Philips is where I first started to hear about Claudio Arrau.
Yeah.
Because he didn't make his RCA appearances for us until later on in the 20th century. They either re-released things they'd done or something.
Yeah, we should make a recording for them too.
Yeah. But what I do remember earlier on were some interesting recordings by this name named Emil Gilels, playing Beethoven, for example, and Brahms. I don't remember him being a Mozart player, or frankly, even that much Schubert. Then I've seen these performances like that video where he tears into that one Rachmaninoff etude.
Yeah. Are we talking Gilels?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. What is it? E flat minor or something? But the one that has
the double
left hand running all over the place.
Oh, are you sure?
Just B flat minor or something like that.
It could be. Are you sure you're not talking about the Moment Musicale?
No, I'm thinking of
that's
etude, I think. But that sounds, and I mean, clearly the guy had the metal Russian machine chops to do this stuff. But he brought such elegance and power. But it's a little bit like, I mean, the power of the bear.
Yeah.
I mean, Horowitz was more like a panther.
Yeah.
But like the Russian bear a little bit, but a little regal, a little withheld.
Yeah.
So there's plenty of power there in the Beethoven, but it never like got crazy. And I mean, I thought, I still think, it's great performances of the Waldstein by so many people. But I really remember his performance.
There's a video of him on YouTube of him performing the Tchaikovsky, the first. Mm-hmm. And during some of the cadenzas, I couldn't help notice that he's got some Alexis Weissenberg in him.
Yeah.
Because there's because he does, a lot of steel, but yet he's sitting there and he's like weighing his hands just before he strikes the key.
Yeah.
Pretty much what Weissenberg used to do, where he would, at the end of the, something like the Traumerei by Schubert or Schumann, and he'd weigh his hands first before he came down on the chord.
Yeah.
That type of deal. Now, I didn't notice it so much when he did Rachmaninoff. When he wasn't doing that. For some reason, maybe he felt more of an affinity for that. I remember in an interview he was giving over at Juilliard for some students. Mm-hmm. This was interesting. One of the students asked him, so how long did it take you to learn the Rachmaninoff third? Mm-hmm. And he says, well, what are you talking about? I'm still working on it. I'm still working on it. It was a great answer, though.
I think it says something that Carl Böhm, I mean, there were those associations made back in the earlier, the post-World War II and the Cold War period.
Yeah.
The Germans, I think, culturally was a place where the Soviet artists could come and play. Yeah. And there was a collaboration going on. Germany tried to be intermediary in a way between the West and the Soviets. And there were some good collaborations, and I think it speaks well of somebody like Carl Böhm. Carl Böhm, I don't think was a dictator, but he was, about things. He worked during the Nazi period. He stayed there, and I think some people, I may be speaking out of turn, but I'm not so sure he didn't have a car. But I have respect for his music making, the kind of that authority, and he elected to have Gilels as a soloist working with him. And when I think of various Russian pianists that have come out of there, Gilels speaks to me most in terms of some of the Central European repertoire that he played so well, without it sounding Russian or something.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard recordings of Richter. I guess I still haven't been won over. I know. Come on.
Yeah.
I've heard some of the Chopin Etude performances and various things like that.
Yeah.
And I know that he was a driven man, and perfectionist and things like that. But I don't know. I just don't get it or feel it. And I know this Volodos guy. I've seen some videos of him. Does his arrangements and things. He's a very interesting fellow, but I know him mostly for that reason.
Yeah.
He has incredible ability, unusual old school facility.
Yeah.
And then there was a period when Berman came, banging through. Yeah. I actually got the list on the Pèlerinage.
Yeah, he has a very strange inconsistency problem.
I think eventually, as I understand anyway, he was alcoholic, right? The booze is what finally destroyed him, I think. But then there's other people. There's Boris Berman, right?
Boris Berman. Yeah. Mr. Prokofiev himself.
He's an important figure in American music pedagogy because such an important teacher there. Yeah, and it's not to put them down or anything, but it's just I think because, unfortunately, who knows? It's an admixture of being so close to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, one of the biggest military things in the United States, in the Midwest, and I don't know, but between the Cold War and this and that, and then my own career and stuff, I just missed out on certain things. And then, like I've talked about, I don't know if I ever got up on our shows yet, but I admire, for certain reasons, Ashkenazi and all of that, but in terms of the tone and everything, it's a little hard to take in sometimes. I've got the complete Rachmaninoff Charity with him doing it, but I can't imagine that those Steinways, once he's done playing them, are worth using anymore after that. It seemed really, and I've seen some videos like where he tears into some Chopin etudes or something. I just thought, wow.
See, it's funny you should say that because I remember seeing him at Mershon on Victoria, and he starts out that Waldstein so quiet you can't hear him.
Wow.
There was nothing to hear. You didn't hear. It was just, I don't know. I was just lost. I was confused. Well, anyways, this brings us to this next guy here. And every once in a while, his name pops up. Once in a while. You might find this one interesting.
Oh, of course, yeah. Did he die early or something?
I have absolutely no clue. But he's the man that's mostly associated with Alcon.
Yeah. I thought he had a stunted career or something. For some reason, something happened. I'll look it up a little bit. But I know there's some performances of he was really quite a phenomenon for a period of time. We're talking about Raymond Leventhal.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've got to show them Emile Gilels. Here's Emile Gilels. Young kid.
That's all Russian repertoire.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it is. Sorry. And this is Raymond. Whoops. Don't know if anybody's ever seen this recording. But I used that LP recording of him performing the Toten Tanz, the complete version. It actually had additional stuff in it that you don't usually hear in most performances of the Toten Tanz. There was a short cadenza before the end where the sound becomes dark and you hear this gong going. And it's just absolutely eerie. So, you see the hexameron variations?
Yeah.
Ever seen the score?
Yes.
You did? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I shouldn't have
Did
to
you
show
have
you
it?
this. I brought it with me.
Oh, good for you.
Here it is.
Yeah.
Look at that smile.
I think I've got a copy of it.
You do?
There.
Does it look like this?
Not this. No, this is nice. This is nice reproduction of the original.
Did you notice the eye in the front? That's an eye.
Oh.
Isn't that weird?
Oh. So who's the first guy?
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's some crazy crap, huh?
Yeah, it is some crazy stuff.
It's interesting that everybody that contributed could,
Yeah.
clearly had some chops.
Yeah. Now, I'm not sure, but there is a story behind this work. We're all familiar with the Liszt-Thalberg duel, right?
Yeah,
I'm going to assume our viewers are too, if they're real geeks like us. There was a duel that was scheduled, but it wound up getting rescheduled. So instead of having the duel on the first date, they had to do something quickly to come up with an idea to replace the Liszt-Thalberg duel.
Mm.
And so what Liszt devised was pulling out a theme and having a bunch of composers writing variations.
Mm-hmm.
So he organized this work, and instead of having to duel with Thalberg on that certain date, he wound up premiering this.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this is. I'll show this up to you close. It's quite a front cover.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
If you all notice the eye right here, I didn't notice it at first until I had it on the table and was looking at it from a distance. See, up close, it's basically a moon with stars, and then the title up above. So, but there, now you can see the eye much better. So, all right, again?
Paid full price somewhere for this.
Yeah.
Where'd you usually bought your music here down in Stanton?
Stents. I usually buy at Stents. This one I picked up in Indiana.
Uh-huh. This is really lovely. I don't know what Robert Linau. It's a music publisher. It's called Robert Linau. It's German, of course, but it's a beautiful reproduction. Really nice paper. It's off-white, kind of ivory-colored paper.
Yeah.
Let's see. He said it was originally published by Haslinger, and then this is Robert Linau, music published in Frankfurt, 2005.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah.
That's nice. Have you ever played it?
I've played through it.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I've searched for YouTube videos on it, and curiously, there is a video. There is a YouTube audio. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's authentic or not, but it's supposedly Horowitz playing it.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not sure of its authenticity. It sounds suspiciously on the fast side, so it tends to distort the sound somewhat to make it almost I don't know. It sounds Horowitzian, but there's some things that happen that don't sound very
I'm
Horowitz.
trying to remember. I remember two strong memories.
Yeah.
From when I was studying with Professor Wynn before I became an actual college student.
Yeah.
This was in my teen years in the 70s. There are two performances that I recall from guest soloists coming. Well, more than two. One was Robert Moog came and demonstrated this synthesizer thing that he could do.
Yeah.
The real Robert Moog. He was there showing all of this
Wow.
stuff. Then there was a guy. I wonder if it was Leventhal.
Really?
There's another one that has a similar Jewish name. That
Jerome.
L. Jerome.
Leventhal. Not well, is it?
No, Leventhal or something like that.
This one is
Yeah.
Leventhal. Yeah, his would be
Leventhal.
Lowenthal.
Leventhal means the valley of the lion
Okay.
in slightly different dialects and Germanic tongues. Leven, Lewen, I think is like more a Flemish thing, like where Beethoven's from. But it all means Tal is a valley, and Leuven, Lowen.
Yeah.
They actually do that. That's Leuven, actually, the umlaut's missing.
Yeah.
It just means the valley of the lions.
Okay.
But I think it was one of those guys.
Yeah, probably would have been.
Jerome or Raymond,
Ray
I'm not
Raymond.
sure, who came and did a concert. Professor Wynn was the chair.
Do you remember what he looked like?
He was kind of a tallish guy.
He was a tallish guy.
Yeah.
It would have been him because Jerome's not that tall.
Well, and somehow Professor Wynn got him there. We had some interesting people come in, like when Robert Moog came and demonstrated the synthesizer and everything, because this was the first time where we could do stuff on a keyboard, like a piano keyboard, and make sounds and things happen like that and demonstrate all that. That was pretty cool. I also remember when my teacher, Howard Card, came, and he played, think about that. I can't think of the big piece that he played. Oh, Shimanovsky.
Oh, yeah.
Sonata.
Yeah. I remember when he did a whole recital of just Shimanovsky. That was mind-boggling.
Yeah. But this guy, there's a reason I remember, because he played the hexameron.
He did?
Yeah, so
Wow.
it could have been him. I mean, I know there's other ones, a CD in this, but I know that Leventhal played that kind of repertoire.
Yeah.
And I remember that did some talking about a presentation about it a bit.
Huh.
I think what happened is he did a concert, and then he also did a master class. And in the master class, he discussed.
Did he wear a cape?
He's
notorious.
I vaguely remember something like that.
Oh, then it might have been him. It might have been him.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But I remember the master class. Part of it was he spent part of the time talking about the creation of hexameron.
Oh.
It's kind of interesting that there were these few pieces. Who else did this? But I think, of course, Diabelli. These publishers sometimes printed these pieces and then invited composers at the time to come up with variation, some kind of piece with it. And Diabelli, of course, famously sent out this dum dum bum 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 ba da 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 dum. This theme that he created. And then there was a number of composers who responded, and he published it as this composition with all these famous composers. It's a way of getting his publisher's name out there, and then also helping the composers to get their names out there too. But they were pretty well known.
Yeah.
Beethoven didn't respond, but he was intrigued by the theme, and of course he ended up writing the Diabelli Variations, which is one of the great works from the piano repertoire. And it's kind of but that's what it demonstrates really cool is that oftentimes the theme was kind of some stupid little ditty, and then the more stupid, the more simple it is, the more you can do with it. Right? Which is wonderful when you hear. I mean, even Lacido and Romano had a few takers.
Yeah,
Chopin was one.
Oh yeah, Chopin was one.
But
this was another.
There's certain pieces that were, especially if they were kind of Italian, don't tick tick don't like a waltzy thing or a simple aria or something like that. And oftentimes not intensely harmonically diverse. You know,
Yeah.
just like pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Which is what the Italians liked, you know, in a way, in that sense. Because the ornamentation of the voice is what drove them nuts.
Yeah.
But it allowed itself for some interesting creativity. And there's some really amazing pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, Liszt wrote what Norma Bellini, the Reminiscence of Don Juan.
Mozart, yeah, the chase.
I mean, incredible. But when it comes down to it, in probably a more masterful way, Beethoven's Diabelli Variations.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of pianists that play that.
No, not a lot.
Surprisingly, I haven't heard it yet, but Mitz Kochina famously came out with a recording last year or something.
Something like that.
And I remember, I have heard Sarkin's performance.
Oh, yeah.
I've heard Schnabel.
Alfred Brendel had it.
Of course, he must have done it. I can't. I'm sure. But what I remember is Schnabel and who did I say first? Sarkin, yeah. Sarkin was a hell of a pianist.
Well, anyways, I wanted to segue from the possible Horowitz recording of that to his favorite recording. His favorite recorded piece that he did himself was the Ricordanza Variations.
Oh, you know, it's one of the earliest things he did.
Yeah.
There's, I don't think it's a piano roll, but it's like a very early 78s or something. You find this old recordings where it's the earliest stuff of Horowitz, and this is one of the earliest pieces.
Yeah, his interview with David Duvall. You know, David Duvall once asked him just nonchalantly, "What recording would you like to be most remembered for?" And he said this one.
Ricordanza?
Ricordanza.
Wow.
And there are actually fairly quite a few recordings now. Ivan Davis recorded
the Czerny, that's right.
Yeah, the Czerny's Ricordanza, the variations on a theme by Rodet. There's actually a short preface to the work where whoever the pianist is or editor tells a story about how and why Czerny picked this theme for the variations. So apparently this Rodet, R-O-D-E, was a violinist composer. And according to the guy in the preface, he says that Czerny picked up this piece because Rodet had composed a set of variations or some large work for soprano. And one particular famous European soprano made it very, very popular with this work. And everywhere she sang, everywhere she performed, she actually did this work by Rodet. And so Czerny, who was rather intrigued by the actual work, decided to write a set of piano variations on the same theme. So, and now we have it here. Now, interestingly, Horowitz's recording, I followed it note for note in the score. He does some little tweaks here and there. He doesn't follow all the repeats in it, which I think is good. You know, he made it more compact, but even more amazing, what he does with some of the variations, going from one variation to the other, he puts in just maybe one or two measures of sort of a transitional material to go in, so it melts into the next variation. This was Horowitz in his prime. Oh my gosh. Some of the scales and runs in here, I swear, are reminiscent of what Joseph Hoffman does. I mean, it just comes out going, literally, it sounds just like that. So, I mean, have you ever heard the recording?
This you should look it up.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's on YouTube or something. That somebody's uploaded that. It's pretty famous. And I've got the complete Horowitz that RCA put out, but that's the where they recreate the albums.
Yeah. And
each one of them is like a miniature version of the record with all the pictures and the words and stuff on it. There's been other things released, but I've got quite a bit of Horowitz on CD actually.
Yeah.
And some LPs too.
Yeah, lots to learn.
Great stuff.
Now, before time runs out here, here's the name that we brought up in one of our last episodes. I can't remember. I think it was Beno Mozevich.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he said
Is that Sailing Pomegranate?
It is Sailing Pomegranate. A bunch of his works.
Oh, you'll see in this,
yeah.
Was it 13 I just finished, or 12, where I found pictures of it? I put one up.
Yeah, it was 13. It was this one.
This one.
He was a good-looking fella.
He was, yeah.
I mean, he had full head of hair, a nice clean
Yeah, it's
cut
amazing.
mustache.
I mean, then you have to see pictures of him later on in life.
Yeah.
Age is a bitch, people.
Oh!
I mean, I'm told, I always had kind of a bad self-image growing up. I had family issues. My mother was very abusive, and I got screwed up and stuff. But apparently, the ladies found me charming and attractive and everything for years. Some of the guys did too, but then you get older, and it's like,
Yeah.
gravity takes effect, and whoops, there you go.
Yeah.
Especially some of them, like Mojavich was quite a handsome fellow when he was like younger.
Oh, yeah, he was younger.
But then I think the cigarette smoking kind of
did him in.
made him a little wrinkly.
Yeah.
They were all handsome. I mean, Rosenthal.
Rosenthal?
Those
There's
young
another.
pictures with
Yeah,
the
the
mustache
mustache and the
big
dashing
chest
hair.
and everything.
Yeah, big.
And then you see him later on, and it's just,
It's like, oh.
yeah, he got old.
Yeah. Now, his most popular work is that May Night piece.
Yeah.
I think it's like a 2 or 3 page thing. But here you have plenty of. And he did a piano concerto. He did compose a piano concerto at one time.
This looks well, he's from Finland, right?
Yeah.
It looks Griegy, but
Oh, yeah.
a couple things with the left hand
gonna
here
say.
reminds me of some of the early Scriabin. You know,
Oh,
some of
yeah.
the early preludes that he wrote. That's really cool.
Isn't that cool?
I don't have much of his.
I know, either did I, but.
Well, I just renewed my IMSLP
Oh, yeah?
membership. It's $28 now,
Oh.
but it's still worth it. I bet there's a lot of Palmgren on there.
Oh, I'm sure you'd probably find everything by Palmgren on there.
IMSLP, the Petrucci Library, is probably one of the best resources. Amazing.
Okay.
Cool. That's really cool to have the real thing.
My final purchase. I found this at a thrift store. I never knew this composer wrote this many pieces.
Ooh, Cesar Frown.
Yeah. I didn't know he
Ooh, and it's edited by Dennis Hagee.
Yeah.
Wow, you got it for $2.
$2. They did.
They should show them the inside pictures of these.
Yeah.
Especially at playing the organ.
Organ, yeah.
Yeah, there's a big organist in France, and he had Rachmaninoff-sized hands.
Oh, yeah. You sure did.
He's a big boy. He's tall, big, tall guy. They should show that organ picture.
Okay.
Because I want to play the Prelude, Chorale, and Fugue.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
I actually started to look at it and working on it. I love some of the other stuff. I've got a book of his stuff, the Doberman.
Yeah.
But, holy shit, what are those?
I know. That's what I thought, too.
So what are they? Oh, there you go. No.
But most of, like I said, most of them are miniatures.
Oh,
But
short pieces.
yeah.
That's all it says, just short pieces. There's no opus number given.
No opus number. But nevertheless.
Have you played something?
Yeah, I did. I didn't go through the whole 46.
Wow.
Look at this. See, that's why I said I didn't know you
I'm
wrote
aware
this.
of the. No, I mean I know some of it, but
This is Caesar
especially the older.
46 pieces.
I mean, not the older, but the bigger collection. So
Yeah.
things like that Prelude, Chorale, Fantasy.
All Franck.
But they're character pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah, he presents similar physical difficulties for
Oh,
me the
yeah.
way Rachmaninoff does. I have to break certain things because
Yeah.
I just don't have the compass
We all do.
to bring it off.
Oh, goodness gracious. Well, that's all I brought in today. Like I said, I just grabbed this stuff off the table.
Okay, in terms of time and stuff.
Yeah, I'll be fine. I mean,
Okay.
I'm due to be late at least once this year,
Okay,
so
all right.
I'll be good.
Well, this is a good little show.
Oh, this was an excellent
And
show.
it'll
I
be,
always have a good time doing
look,
this. I hope you do too.
The number 13, which I just uploaded, I think was the second longest that we ever done. The first one was 3 hours and 28 minutes. And this one was 3:18. I think it fell short by 10 minutes.
Oh gosh!
But it's always my fault. I know this because
Who could blame him?
I get going on my discourses sometimes. But we're going to try to keep these things about 2 hours anyway.
Yeah, we
which is
should.
good because I spent over 7 hours editing number 13 yesterday.
Oh God!
Because I find I have to look up the stuff. I'm listening, and then that'd be nice to include some information.
Yeah.
Then I have to create it, refine it, and put it in, paste it. Yeah. I go back and listen, make sure it's in the right place and stuff.
Yeah.
So I've listened to those shows really intensely in order to get them edited.
Yeah.
So I know that 3 hours is really long for you guys, but you listen part of it, turn it off, come back to it, whatever. Sometimes it's just like reading Marcel Proust,
Yeah.
We have a 19th century sense of time sometimes. But we will try to get it done, if anything, because the editor here, I can't put it a day like that. I want to do other things.
Yeah.
Yesterday
Anyways,
was all about editing.
Yeah.
This is all my fault.
If you still like our material, which I do.
Yeah, I did too.
If you like our
This was
material,
nice today.
yeah, it was wonderful.
I think it'll come out refreshingly more shorter.
Yeah, sure. And plus, they get to know a little bit more about my side of
There you
things.
go.
So,
But you don't want to hear about mine.
okay.
I think that we've talked about before, but that never made the
Yeah.
internet.
Anyways, if you enjoyed the content, please comment below. Please subscribe. Tell your friends, family, colleagues about us. Okay. Otherwise, keep watching.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll get some surprises for you again sooner.
Yep. I'm Mark.
I'm Elmer.
This is PSI, Piano Seed Investigation. See you, people.